Maybe too bright.
All right, okay, we almost ready. I think Andre's just getting some. Oh, no, I'm done. Oh, you're done. You're done. Okay. All right.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Melody Healing. This is Yasser Syed, and out of the NGV we have Louise Roberts. She will be appearing in my video. I'd like to welcome Hilary and Alicia and thank them for coming tonight on the NGV. This is our plan using design thinking by empathising, ideating and defining. We've come up with a marketing plan to look forward to the National Gallery Victoria. And the problem definition, having discussed problem definition last week, the problem definition that we came up with is that we want to enhance the appeal of the National Gallery Victoria to a more diverse audience than it currently appeals to, and to attract new funding. And at this point, we'll go over to Louise.
Okay, thanks Melody and Yasser. I'm here at the National Gallery, which has been established for more than 150 years, and during 2014 and 15 it experienced 2.3 million visitors. The gallery is currently undergoing a process of diversification through trying to attract less traditional visitors to the NGV. So that will include children and youth as well as people suffering from dementia. The marketing plan that we're proposing here is complementary to this approach and provides solutions to diversify further. So we know Australians are engaged in cultural activities, with 87% enjoying a festival or event during 2014. The NGV fits firmly into this market, so to understand why people attend the gallery, we undertook bioladdering. We discovered that people go to the NGV to satisfy the higher order values of self-esteem, fun and enjoyment. We have used these values as a focus through the design thinking approach to developing the solution. So from the why laddering, we then asked ourselves, how do people achieve these higher order values of self-esteem, fun and enjoyment? In considering the how, we were able to expand the competitor analysis beyond those competitors that would be seen as traditional competitors, like the museum or the state library. And we included catching up with family and friends for dinner, going to a nightclub, attending a theatre performance, going to the Grand Prix or attending the Melbourne Cup. These competitors offer alternatives for people to spend their limited leisure time and also their limited financial resources to satisfy those higher order values. Following on from the competitor analysis, the PESTLE analysis allows us to understand the type of environment the NGV operates within. The elements that really stood out from this analysis related to the social and technological elements. By focusing on these, which the gallery is already doing, but expanding them to be more diverse, for example, a social media campaign which incorporates the use of an app during the visit to the gallery, but as well as connecting to a wider audience and retaining that audience after the visit's been completed. We also considered an empathy map, and we mapped how a visitor feels upon arrival to the gallery and also entering the big wide open space of the gallery as you come through the main doors. Through our analysis, we felt it was important to remember the NGV relies on significant donations from the traditional audience as well as government grants. We've kept this in mind through the development of the solutions. So using design thinking as our approach, we prepared a SWOT and TOES analysis and also went on the customer journey to understand the various touch points of a typical customer and how they experience the gallery. So I'll now hand back to Melody and Yasser in the studio to discuss these elements as well as the solution packages. So back to you, Melody and Yasser. Thank you.
You can just hear the great atmosphere of Melbourne there. And windy out there. That was fantastic with Louise. Hillary and Alicia will be very happy to provide you with the full paper. Obviously, this is just a high-level overview. So the identified objectives are that there are two objectives we came up with. That number one, to develop an NGV specific online application, the NGV app as we call it, for use by all NGV visitors, whether physically or virtually attending the gallery, to increase the physical visitation to the gallery by 10% in the first year. And Louise alluded to some of the more interactive things that we feel will appeal to some of the market segments that we're going to talk to you about. The second objective is to identify and secure partnerships to diversify the target audience and product offering to align with partners. Two mutually beneficial partnerships that will be established within a year, and in the second year hold one cross-promotional event. The example that we have put into our larger paper is that Selfridges in London has a cross-promotional Much Ado About Nothing, and they had a picture of Shakespearean dressed actors up on the roof, and there was drinks, and there was a short excerpt from the play. And it said, at Selfridges, come and see our Shakespearean clothing line. So that was an example. Just to give you some of the ideas of the tools that we use to arrive at some of our proposed detailed solutions. There's a document called the Audience Atlas Victoria, and it looks at all the culture and arts market, and it has a very detailed breakdown of the market segments within Victoria. And they came up with names such as Essence, and in this particular group they are described as discerning, spontaneous, independent and sophisticated. As opposed to, for example, affirmation, which is they self-identified, aspirational, they look at quality time and improvement. There's breakdowns of all of these. We selected 4 of these groups, and within those 4 groups, the significant factors were 75% of them use social media regularly, and 25% of them have children under 16 years. So this is a bit further breakdown into some of the detail that the Audience Atlas provided. And if I just pick up Essence, they tend to be well-educated professionals, highly active cultural consumers. They are leaders rather than followers and will act spontaneously according to their mood. And culture is a means of self-fulfillment and a means of experiencing life. As opposed to, for example, affirmation, for them, art, it validates themselves with their peers, and they care what people think in relation to being seen, to being consuming art. So they would be the type of people who would want to put on social media, I'm at the NGV, here's what I'm doing today. And here is some of the data in relation to use of social media, the volume of people in this segment, so you can see very large numbers, up to 1 million people in the expression group. And there's some figures there about the average cultural spend. And there's also some aims here as to how to target this particular market segment. So that particular report is very detailed and quite useful. This is called a perceptual map, and this is our perception looking at, Louise alluded to, from our perspective we looked at the leisure and pleasure market, not just a narrow view of arts and culture in relation to, for example, state library and museum. So where might a person want to spend their leisure and pleasure time? And we've selected a number of things like the MCG, theatres and live performance, friends, family, restaurants, etc. Grand Prix. And then we said, well, what would be, if you think about things like chocolate, you might talk about cost and richness of taste, but we thought, well, what are our axes going to be? And we went for a high appeal up here and low appeal here, and we used the term highbrow and lowbrow, meaning how is it perceived, how much money do I spend, and we just, this is really our own perception, but that's what it is, it's a perceptual map. And we felt that the NGV moves into the highbrow half, but perhaps has the opportunity to move up more into the high appeal quadrant. And you can see here the competition. So this was our solutions aimed towards trying to move into this perception of increasing the NGV's appeal. We also undertook a journey map looking at places, people and tools, and that further informed some of the findings that led to our solutions. And Louise alluded to looking at the, for example, the entrance to the NGV as well as the experience when you go right into the exhibition. And at this point I'll hand over to Yasa. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Melody. It feels a bit like a TED Talk, so that's probably the closest I'll get to one. So I'll make the most of this opportunity, and I appreciate the NGV colleagues taking the time out to come and attend our presentation. What we have here today are two options. We've obviously got our tactical solution that we can get off the ground as quickly as possible, and then we also have our strategic solution, which is probably in the 2 to 4 year bracket. In terms of the tactical solution, the quote we've used there is to re-energise and solidify, and that's basically providing a bit more life to some of the exhibitions that are actually occurring at the NGV and solidifying the market, the new market that we're hopefully tapping into. In terms of the target event, the obvious target event for us is the Friday nights at the NGV. It is a step out of the traditional NGV, the visual arts. It's something more exciting. It occurs on an exciting night in Friday. And that's the event that we think should be focused on in terms of a tactical solution. And one thing we did note was sensory engagement. When we did attend the Friday nights, we believe there could be more done in terms of actually engaging sight, the sense of hearing, taste, touch and smell. Just to give you an example, in terms of smell, so if we do have a Middle Eastern artwork that's displayed, maybe some traditional oud that's used just to provide that end-to-end experience for customers. In terms of taste, we could align it to some Middle Eastern food as well and provide that experience to the customers so that once they do enter the NGV, they feel like they're actually immersed in that environment. And we feel that as part of this tactical solution, it would be key to actually get all the senses engaged and most people involved as well. In terms of technology, the app wouldn't really fall into our tactical solution technology. So an example of how technology can fail on you. I'll continue talking about it. So in our tactical solution, we had the capture of data. That's actually being, so I know the NGV has established a presence across some of the traditional social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's capturing the data in that, capturing the data of those social media platforms in our tactical solution. And if we move on to our strategic solution, which has already reshaped itself there, we would like to develop that into an app. And in terms of the app, the data we've collected in terms of the customers that we're engaging, we'll have information about demographics, we'll have information about the people that are really engaging with us. And so that provides a lot of food for thought when we're actually sitting down and creating the NGV app. In terms of the target events for our strategic solution, the idea was to create a model that could be reused. Basically, if we are using the Friday nights of the NGV as an example, then we want to model that to other events. So take the model that's worked there, refine it to some degree, alter it to some degree and customize it to some degree to suit our audiences, and then use that model across other events that the NGV is hosting. And hopefully that provides also the opportunity for the NGV to approach other partners and strike some strategic partnerships. And it may be with the AFL, it could be with PTV to maybe extend the free tram zone out to the NGV. And once we've got a model there, I think for the marketing colleagues at the NGV, it becomes easier to take that to the partners and suggest to them that here's a model that's worked for us. If we can work in collaboration with yourself, we've got art that can be displayed, and we align with your calendar as well. So it could be the Grand Prix, it could be the Melbourne Cup. So developing those partnerships are part of that strategic plan we have. In terms of the recommendations, our recommendation is not to choose one of the solutions, but to implement both of them. So begin with the tactical solution, which is relatively low cost and easy to set up. So we could start that literally tomorrow. And that is the recommendation we provide, is to start with the tactical solution, trial it with the Friday nights at the NGV, refine the model, and then hopefully mature the model as we go along. And that should naturally lead into our strategic plan. And then we'll build that model in the strategic plan, extend it to our partners. Hopefully by then we'll engage, I think it was 2 partners that we recommended as part of the objectives, and then innovate that to tailor it to the audiences. And by then, hopefully, we would have had an app. And I know, Alicia, we did have a discussion about this, that at the moment there is an app that's web-based, but push notifications seems to be the way forward. So if there's an app that's natively on the phone, that's always on the phone, then if there's an event, we can push that out to the customers, to our visitors as well, so they're always in the loop. And that's basically it for us. So thank you. A bit of our own artwork there. Question.
As you know, when I spoke to you recently,
Yep.
you outlined that we do already have not an app, but a web app. How do you see that being different? Do you imagine it would supersede the other app, which is more sort of, I suppose, content and collection based rather than, I suppose, account or, well, I suppose what I'm saying is, what would the new app offer that would be different to the current web app?
Yep.
And could not be built into the current web app as it is?
Yep. So one of the things we did look at was that with an app that would be natively on your phone or your device, you'd have the ability to share photos instantly. So we saw the integration with social media was quite key, and that's something that's not quite possible with the web-based application. And also the last point that I touched upon was that we can constantly keep individuals in the loop. So if there's a new event that's coming out, or if they've possibly even if there's some, I think we were talking about the GPS technology, so if they're moving towards a particular artwork, providing them with that information or providing them with that actual feedback would be quite important. And that's where we see the differentiation between the web-based app and then the native app that's on the phone as well.
And the other thing that we thought was, if you wanted to look at Egyptian art but you didn't know where it was, to be able to use the app to guide you through the buildings. So there was, again, in that market segment, there was one group that liked things really well planned. They'd like to be able to drive in, know where to park, come in, spend 90 minutes and they're out of there. So it's having that quite, I guess, well laid out journey. And the other thing that we talked about, and Yasser knows more about IT than me, but being able to take something like a really well-known photo of a really well-known painting and insert your own image into the painting and put it on social media. So it's almost like a photo booth that's live, but really it's all around that interaction.
So we did recognise there was the Degas Telstra photo booth that was there as well. We just felt it probably could have been positioned a bit more appropriately, because we were the only ones. I was the only one that found the booth, and I work for Telstra, so I was naturally attracted to it. But yeah, those are some of the things, and we do acknowledge that the ballet dancers have also been incorporated. So in terms of so that's a step in the right direction. So.
Well, I was also thinking about Parisian themes, and I thought, well, what's something that happened when I was in Paris, and it's the vendors by the river, and whether you could have that sort of really lively environment as you walk in, and having some relevant music from the Valley Pock era and that type of thing. And I think then people would have an image in their mind about what they're going to come across when they come to the NGV, and that increases the expectation and perhaps moves the appeal up.
Do you see, because I know that you mentioned with your tactical looking at Friday nights and the sensory engagement and other forms of engagement, do you see that as being almost a separate stream to the app development, or do you, in your planning, did you devise or think of how the two could be connected?
I think that the app needs to be, to keep up with the competitive environment. I think the app in and of itself is a really important strategic development for the NGV.
So that would be sort of above and around the Friday night. So
and then the Friday night is one of the things that occurs, because I know you have a Sunday afternoon, I know you have kids at the NGV, so all of those things would be enhanced and feed into the app.
And the other thing we sort of noted was that the capture of data was quite important as well, just to understand, the type of customers, the type of visitors that are coming through to the NGV. And if we are to target a new segment, and if we are to create an app that's aligned to one of these target segments, then we need that data there. So as part of the tactical solution, there is a phase there where we'll collect as much data as possible and use that while we're actually developing the application.
And would that be achieved through, for example, people creating accounts on the app or buying the app? How would that data capture?
So this would be the initial capture of data through the social media platforms that are out there, so people that are accessing that information, and also in terms of, it could be ticket sales, it could be possibly particular art pieces that people are going to. So it's all that data that needs to be collated, and we feel that's crucial to the app development.
We definitely capture a lot of data from ticket sales, as I mentioned,
Yep.
but we don't really capture it through our social media.
That's right, yeah.
So for example, for every child under the age of 16, you could ask them to tap your app here whilst they go through the gallery to see what the children are attracted to. And then you could actually, your next group of children, you could actually send them on that, sort of find the highlights for kids type thing. I mean, it's pretty endless how far you could go with it, really. Any other questions? Okay,
That's really good. Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Thank you.